So you want to learn Chinese, huh? Where do you even start? I heard that there's characters and tones, and that sounds pretty challenging. I mean, characters are so beautiful, but how in the world am I supposed to know how to pronounce it? It's like deciphering ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics or the original purpose of Stonehenge. 大家好，欢迎来到我的频道. My name is Bianca, and today I'll be starting a mini-series. Well, maybe not so mini-series about how to learn Chinese. For the next few weeks, I'll dive into a different aspect of learning Chinese and talk about how to approach them from my own experiences learning Chinese. And just as a little disclaimer, I am not fluent in Chinese yet, but I have been learning for around 2-ish years, so I would hope that I have some wisdom to impart upon newer learners, but maybe not. Let me know in the comments below if anything I'm saying actually makes any sense. But let's start from the beginning. You've decided that you want to learn Chinese. Whatever the reason may be, or wherever your motivations may lie, you need to start somewhere. So what is that somewhere? How do I start to learn Chinese? We can speak from day one, or maybe do some bilingual translation. Italki courses or Lingoda speedruns. Massive immersion. Can you guys guess which language YouTuber is known for the approaches that I just mentioned? Comment it down below. People have differing opinions about what should be the absolutely first thing to learn, but most, if not all, will agree on one thing. Learn pinyin. Wait, Bianca, you're missing an important caveat. Alright, okay. If you're learning in Taiwan, you'll probably learn Julian or Bopomofo instead. Maybe a mix with pinyin depending on your program. It is a little bit different, but it equates to the same type of thing. So pinyin is important, but what is it? Why should I care about it? I just want to dive deep into the characters. Go all in. Well, in its simplest terms, pinyin spells out the sound of Chinese characters with the English alphabet, or it romanizes it. So let's say you see this word right here. If you've never learned Chinese before, take a guess as to how it's pronounced. I'll give you 5 seconds. Guessing it was pretty much an impossible task, right? You would have to hear a native speaker pronounce the word and basically memorize the sound that they made. And I don't know about you, but I personally don't have a native speaker in my back pocket reading every single word to me when I don't know its pronunciation. You could swap out a native speaker for a smartphone, and that would actually be possible. But how would you even look up that word? You would have to draw it out or do a picture-to-text type of thing. Yes, it is possible to do that to every single word, but surely there's a better way. If only we had a way to explain pronunciation with a framework that I know. Let's say the English alphabet. So let's bring back that character and pop it up on the screen. Pinyin helps us convert this character into Mao or cat. Simple, right? Just read the word. Well, not so fast. There's that little line on top of the A. What's that for? Well, it expresses the tone of the word. Wait, what's a tone and why do I need to learn it? Pinyin conveys 2 types of information. 1, what sound do I make? 2, what pitch do I use? And this is why pinyin is incredibly important to learn at the very beginning of your learning. Characters hold so much information within one composition. It would be impossible, or I guess very challenging, to learn characters without a reading aid. Other languages like English have alphabets where we can combine and break up letters to form new words. Chinese has pinyin for us foreign language speakers. It's a learning aid. And it's actually really interesting because pinyin has now become one of the most popular ways to text, even for Mandarin speakers. It's an amazing tool, although it does have its faults, like most learning aids. So how do I learn pinyin? Just do brute force memorization? Well, yes and no. It's actually not that hard to read pinyin, but what is challenging is removing the English influences on our pinyin reading. Wait, Bianca, what does that mean? I thought it's supposed to help English speakers. Well, let's bring back those two types of information pinyin helps us to learn. 1. What sound do I make? 2. What pitch do I use? And we'll focus on that first point for right now. Say this sentence for me. Whoa. Q can guan kai dong xi. That doesn't really sound Chinese. It sounds off, right? Well, yeah, because it is off. Pinyin uses English letters, but we can't pronounce it like English. We need to learn what Chinese sound each English letter corresponds to. If we pronounced it according to the most similar sounding English word, it would probably sound a bit like this. Whoa from woe is me. Queue from queuing up in a line, although we don't really say that in America. Can, you can do it. Guan, the closest thing I can think of is like a guanidinium chloride assay. #Them. Or Kai, like a chiral molecule. Any chem majors out there? You can comment it in the comments down below. Dong from ding dong, or like ding dong ditch. XI from like axis or exit. And X is a very weird letter, but the proper way to pronounce that sentence would actually be, bear with my pronunciation, it's still not 100%, but it would be 我去餐馆吃东西, or I go to the restaurant to eat stuff. That sounds completely different. This is going to be impossible. Well, the first step to learn pinyin is to listen to a native speaker, pronounce each consonant and each vowel. The second step is to associate that sound with the English letters. And a great video on this is from Yo-Yo Chinese. So I will link that in the description. You can click the card over here as well to get directly to that video. But each word consists of two things, initials and finals. There are 21 initials and 38 finals, together making up around 400 syllabic sounds. And you can think of the initials as consonants in English and the finals as vowels. Some are aspirated, some unaspirated, some retroflex, some are just really hard to pronounce for an English speaker, and all of those terms are kind of confusing. You got your B and bu, which sounds more like a pie than bai. The P and peng, which is different from the bu we just mentioned. M and ma and F and fun are not that different from English, but D and dui is more like a tai than dai. While the day and dian is usually compared to jeep, but it sounds like a mix with cheap. But the Q and ting is also compared to cheap, let alone the zh, ch, and sh that are pronounced with the same area of the mouth but with slightly different air pressures. And that's not even all of the initials. Let's go on to the finals, and now we have simple ones like A and O, but try to read this. He, that's not he, that's huh. The E is an What? I can be pronounced in different ways. When paired with the Z, it's Z, or with ZH, it's J. Sometimes it's silent, and then you get the combination of vowels like yao, yang, and yong. That's not spelled with the Y like one would expect. And don't get me started on U versus E. This is complicated. These rules are so confusing. How am I supposed to learn all 400 of these sounds? Listen to native speakers. Yes, there are rules, but once you figure it out, there are ones that are similar to English. Then move on to the ones that are a bit more different or difficult to pronounce. Yes, there are rules, but that just means that pinyin acts in regular patterns. Patterns are easy to internalize. When you learn how the initials and the finals work together, you can apply that to any new word. So find a guide that lists the initials and the finals, whether in a textbook or online or a video, and work through that while listening to the native speakers pronounce them. And listening to native speakers is actually pretty easy because there's tons of videos on YouTube. But that association bit is a little bit harder. So how do you associate the English, but not really English, letters with the Chinese pronunciation. For me, the most impactful thing was shadowing and self-monitoring. Start off with one-syllable sounds and then move on to multi-syllabic sounds. So listen to a native speaker pronounce a sound while reading the pinyin. Read the pinyin out loud and try to mimic the pronunciation that you heard from the native speaker. Self-correct. How close was your pronunciation? Was it super, super off? Try using a different part of your voice or your mouth or your throat. Experiment with sounds until your pronunciation is more similar to the recording. Repeat and repeat and repeat. Now let's see this process in practice.
Now let's do this. Okay, say yards, yards, z.
Z, z. Let's hear it again.
With this is you start voicing it. You start need to hear it. So now let's do this. Okay, say yards, yards.
Z, z,
Okay,
z.
now put your hand.
Z, right? So I'm listening to a native speaker pronounce it and trying to match my sound. If I was saying z, 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 that would sound different than what she said, which was z. So I need to self-correct. And let's go to a multi-syllabic sound.
非常好. So the word that with zh in it is 知道. Like I know, right? 知道.
知道,
知道.
知道.
I know. 我知道.
我知道. So that's how we can do a self-correction. We hear a native speaker, we pronounce it, and we see, does it sound okay, right? 我知道. It would be wrong if I would say 我知道. So if I pronounce it like 知道, then I would need to change the way that my mouth actually is structured. It's not 知, it's 知. So you can see the shape is changed, right? So that's how we can practice this. So all you really need to do to learn pinyin is listen to a native speaker and shadow. It's as simple as that. And for the self-correction bit, it actually is very useful if you have a native speaker hear your pronunciation and make corrections, whether that be from a friend or a teacher or anyone else you may know. You could self-correct on your own, but as a beginner, your ears haven't really been tuned to Mandarin sounds yet, so it will probably take more time. And I really recommend using the Yo-Yo Chinese video I linked in the description. Yang Yang has one of the most comprehensive yet simple explanations of pinyin out there, especially for those hard to pronounce sounds. So now the first portion of pinyin has been tackled. We've learned what sound we need to make. So how do we tackle the second part? What pitch do we make? And honestly, it's basically the same thing. Listen to a native speaker, shadow, and self-correct. And it's even simpler because there's only 4 pitches. Well, five if you count the neutral tone. The first tone, let's use BA. B as the initial, A as the final, for example. Ba. This is a pretty high pitch. So find the pitch where your natural voice, you feel vibrations in the roof of your mouth or in your cheekbones. It's a very static pitch, so it will stay that pitch throughout. The second tone, ba. Pretend like you're asking a question. It's also pronounced really, really forward with vibrations in the roof of your mouth. And you may feel a tendency to start super, super low, like ba. But if you start too low, it'll sound more like a third tone. So make it a few tones lower than the first tone, which was ba. For example, if the first tone is this pitch, ba, then the second tone can sound like ba. This is what it would sound like though if you go up it too low. Ba, ba. The second tone sounds too similar to the third tone. And with that, the third tone. The third tone is ba. This one is usually talked about as a falling and rising tone. But honestly, in practice, it's really just the low pitch that sits at the bottom of your jaw, especially when native speakers are speaking fast. It's usually just much lower in comparison to the other tones. And the fourth tone, ba. Pretend like you're yawning, like an ah, but make it faster. Ah. So hear all the tones together. Ba, 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 And now apply those tones to each syllable pair, and then apply them to each multisyllabic pair. But take note that tones often influence each other when part of a multisyllabic word. So again, I recommend watching Yo-Yo Chinese's video to get a native speaker's pronunciation when tones are modified. So how do you learn pinyin? 1. Listen. 2. Shadow. 3. Repeat. And that's really it. But remember that learning pinyin and by extension pronunciation is a long process. I'm still fixing my pronunciation and reading a pinyin to this day. So keep listening, keep shadowing, and keep self-correcting. Record yourself, and over time you'll see just how much your pinyin and by extension your pronunciation will improve. So now we know pinyin, but what's next? Well, what is pinyin used for? To help us learn characters. So tune in next week where I'll take us through my process of learning new Chinese characters. But if you enjoyed that video, please give a like, comment, share, and subscribe. It really helps me out in the YouTube algorithm. Check out Mandarin Companion for some really good reading comprehension, and I have a nice discount code in the description below. And consider checking out my Patreon. But I hope you all have a great rest of your days, and I will see you guys next week. 再见!